My name is Alex. I like space a lot. Today, I am reading the news. The news is about the moon. Many people want to go back to the moon. Countries want to go, companies want to go too. The news calls it a race back to the moon. It sounds very exciting. It is April 2025 now. Things are happening fast. But things are also complicated. First, I read about NASA. NASA is the American Space Agency. They have a big plan. The plan is called Artemis. The goal of Artemis is amazing. NASA wants people to live and work on the moon for a long time. They want a base camp on the surface. They also want a small space station orbiting the moon. This station is called Gateway. Gateway will help astronauts travel between Earth and the moon base. NASA says this is practice for going to Mars someday. Artemis has different steps. Artemis I was the first step. It was a test flight. NASA sent the big new rocket, SLS, and the Orion spaceship around the moon. There were no people on board. This test flight happened in late 2022. The news says it was a big success. That sounds good, but the next step seems slower. Artemis II is next. This time, 4 astronauts will fly around the moon in Orion. They will not land. 1 astronaut is from Canada. 3 are from America. This flight was planned for late 2024, but now, the news says it will not launch before September 2025. It is delayed. Why is it delayed? I think about this. The news says NASA needs more time. They need to check data from Artemis I. They found problems with the heat shield on Orion. That protects the ship when it comes back to Earth. They also need to fix things in the life support system. That keeps the astronauts safe. Building spaceships is hard. Then there is Artemis III. This is the really big one. This mission will land people on the moon again. It will be the first time since the Apollo missions long ago. NASA wants the first woman and the first person of color to walk on the moon. This is history. But Artemis III is also delayed. It was planned for 2025. Now, the news says it will not happen before September 2026. Why this delay? The news says it is because Artemis II is delayed, and also because the special landing spaceship is not ready. This is the Human Landing System, or HLS. The spacesuits are not ready either. A company called SpaceX is building one HLS. It is a version of their Starship rocket. Another company, Blue Origin, is building a second HLS. Having 2 landers seems like a good idea. It gives NASA a backup. But building them takes time. It seems building new things for the moon is very, very difficult. It takes longer than people hope. I read more. NASA is not doing everything alone. They have partners. Many countries signed the Artemis Accords. These are rules for exploring space peacefully. Canada, Japan, and countries in Europe are helping. Canada is building a robot arm for the Gateway station. Europe is building important parts for the Orion spaceship and Gateway. Japan is building parts for Gateway too. They are also working on a moon car for astronauts. It is good that countries work together, but private companies are also a big part of the plan. NASA has a program called CLPS. This means Commercial Lunar Payload Services. NASA pays private companies to send science tools and robots to the moon on smaller landers. This helps prepare for the big Artemis missions. One company, Intuitive Machines, did something amazing in February 2024. Their robot lander, Odysseus, landed softly on the moon. It was the first American landing since Apollo. It was the first ever by a private company. That sounds like a huge success. But I read more details. The lander tipped over when it landed. It still worked and sent data. But was it a perfect success? I wonder. It shows landing is still tricky. Another company, Astrobotic, tried to land its Peregrine robot in January 2024, but it failed. The robot had a problem and could not reach the moon. So, some private missions work. Some fail. Alex thinks, can NASA really depend on these companies for important things? Maybe it's good they have backups like SpaceX and Blue Origin for the human lander. Other countries have their own moon plans too. China has the Change program. They landed on the far side of the moon before. In May 2024, they launched Change 6 to bring back samples from the far side. I should check if it succeeded later. China plans to build its own moon base with Russia, called ILS. They want to send Chinese astronauts to the moon around 2030. India also had a big success. Their Chandrayaan-3 lander reached the moon's south pole in August 2023. Japan landed its SLIM probe very accurately in January 2024, but it also tipped over. Russia tried to land Luna 25 in August 2023, but it crashed. So, I look at all this news. It is April 2025. People call it a race back to the moon. And maybe it is, between the US-led group and the China-Russia group. But it is also a story of teamwork, like the Artemis Accords. And it is a story of great difficulty. Landing is hard. Building new rockets and spaceships is hard. There are successes, but also failures and delays. Going back to the moon is definitely happening. It is not just talk, but it is slower and harder than the exciting headlines sometimes sound. It needs patience. It needs a lot of smart people solving tough problems. I wonder what the news will say next year. Will Artemis II fly? Will China get its samples? It makes me think. Asking questions about it feels important.